Welcome to another episode of The Weigh-In, where we discuss all things boxing. How are you doing, chaps? How's it going?
All good, Andrew?
Yeah, good, brother.
Come on, you know what it is. Still feeling positive vibes during this pandemic right now, aka the panoramic, but we move.
That's it.
I was going to say, not feeling too positive, man, after Dominic Calvert-Lewin decided to ruin my weekend. So, not feeling too great this morning, boys.
Man sat on my FPL bench, man. It's peak, man. started 2 seconds ahead of him, bro. I feel the pain. So what are you saying, Andy? What you got in these boxing streets for us this week, bro?
Yeah, we're going to say it's our first show of Feb. So I'm sure you guys are kind of glad to see the back of January.
Yeah, January is notoriously like a slow month for boxing, and even in like a global pandemic, it's obviously a little bit slower. So good times.
And I guess in general, it's a long month, isn't it, guys? Just in terms of like personal life.
Oh, bruv.
Yeah.
And also, like, you're feeling the pace from Christmas, man. The wallet's not what it was, you know. January's a long month, you know. It's all good there.
Good stuff, man. And Clive, I mean, how you feeling? How's work? How's everything?
You know what? It's the best it can be. We're all getting through this, and soon enough, we'll be out there going to all these boxing events. So all in good time, chaps.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to going to some more fights in the near future. That's something we have missed out on in the sort of past year or so. It's been almost 18 months now, maybe, guys, since Winter York Hall.
Yeah. What do you think's worse for without a live event, football or boxing? What do you think's like? You know, you're watching it at home. You're like, what do you think needs a live event more? Do you think?
Boxing. The venue is smaller, so it's more intimate. So then sometimes I've seen some boxers have a certain reaction, and you can tell like they're waiting to feed off the crowd of like they've got this crazy knockout or a big win, and you know some people like to feed off the energy of the crowd, and then they're just there like it looks weird, like shouting to themselves. But I think in their mind, it's kind of like they're envisioning a crowd being there regardless. So you can tell that they really miss it, like just feeding off the energy in the crowd. What makes it more epic is seeing the crowd's reaction when, you know, an underdog's absolutely walloped the favourite, and then everyone's reaction just like, oh my goodness, the jubilation. So in due time.
Yeah, definitely in due time. So hopefully we do get to go to boxing quite soon. And guys, if you're listening, man, it's important to talk. So if you get a chance, please do reach out to someone. Please do drop someone a message. We are here, the weigh-in team here. We are here. So if you want to get in touch, please do drop us a message. Just drop us a line. You know, we want to kind of help everyone during these difficult times. So by all means,
Indeed.
Can I say as well? I find even just doing the podcast, doing the weigh-in, cathartic. It's definitely like the highlight of my week. Sort of looking forward to having a chat about something that, you know, I find interesting, a hobby of mine, and, you know, having a chat with good friends of mine. So it's definitely, and, you know, during the pandemic, that's even more so. So, like, you know, it's always good to find people to talk to, and this is an outlet for us.
Even for us, you know, group chat is just absolutely buzzing, isn't it?
Well, we are four funny fellas, you know what I mean, Andy? Some people aren't as lucky as that, Andy.
Yeah. So by all means, guys, please do drop us a comment, and also drop us a DM on the gram. So a bit of housekeeping first, Clive.
Guys, drop us a comment, share, and press that like button. Make sure you subscribe, and you can also find us on Instagram.
So depending on where you are in the world, it could well be snowing outside. As I turn to the left, I look out in the window, I can definitely see it's trying to snow, which is not ideal for me. And usually London kind of has a meltdown when it's snowing. So Ray, I know you and I have a boxing session lined up coming in.
Yeah, I'm gonna need this snow to go away, because although I joke about training old school outside at Marvin Hagler, I'm still not exactly built like him. So I'd rather it just be cold and a bit windy rather than cold, snowing and windy.
It's not excuses we're hearing, Ray. Is it? That's smelling.
Mate, it's definitely not ideal.
Listen, I'll channel my inner Marvin Hagler, but I'm not built like him. I can only try.
That's it. Treadmill's still there, Ray. Treadmill's still there.
Whoa!
Steve, any chance of snow where you are?
No, but you know what? Just like Ray, I'm not particularly acclimatized to the weather over here either. Do you know what I mean? So lots of factor 50 for me. Lots of staying indoors. You know, so we all have our strengths. And 40-degree heat in Thailand is not the one for me.
Oh wow.
Mad stuff. So wherever you are, whenever you are, please do stay safe. Right, so guys, on today's show, we're going to be discussing Canelo and Billy Joe Saunders. That fight is set for May the 8th. But what does that mean for the mouth-watering clash between Josh Taylor and Jose Ramirez? Also, guys, Caleb Plant, is he now putting the world at notice?
No.
There you go. Simple answer. Another one for you guys on the agenda. Is it time for the WBA to drop the regular title? Absolute circus going on in the heavyweight scene, and it's not any better in the divisions below. And also, you may have seen on the gram that David Haye and Derek Chisora have been teasing us with a few potential fight announcements. We'll definitely have to look out for that one in the coming days. So let's kick things off, guys. Some good news, I guess some common sense for once in boxing, as Top Rank and ESPN are set to move the Jose Ramirez fight against Josh Taylor away from May the 8th, so it doesn't conflict with Billy Joe Saunders taking on Canelo. Good news, right?
Yeah, that would have been a travesty if that happened. And I'm glad that boxing promoters saw a bit of sense there, because like we're saying, we moan about pay-per-view shows in England, and they're £25 now, depending on the fight, $19.99, $24.99. In the US, they're typically $100, $99 or whatever. So to put two fighters on the same night, both with the same demographic of fighters, so you've got Billy Joe Saunders and you've got Josh Taylor, both from the UK, both world champions from the UK, and then you've got two big names in Mexico, literally going head to head. It made no sense, and it was just there's no way in if you wanted to do a legitimate deal, which we were all trying to do, there's no way you're going to pay $200 for a night of boxing on two shows. So they need to sort themselves out, and luckily they did.
And you, Clive?
Yeah, you know what? I'm absolutely glad. I remember it was 2018 when we had Dillian Whyte Chisora, and on the same night we had Warrington Frampton. This is a much, much bigger scale. We're talking about the poster boy of boxing, that being Canelo. Taylor Ramirez, that's a unification bout. So the idea that those two fights were going to take place on the same night, it was stupid. Yeah, Steve was talking about those pay-per-view prices over there in the States. For us here in the UK, that would have been, what, £50 easy, £25 per pay-per-view, box office, BT box office. So it's common sense. And had that gone ahead, I think more people would have turned towards Saunders and Canelo, with Canelo being a bigger draw. Yeah, thank God they're looking to basically separate the dates for those two fights.
Now, that's good news for boxing. I remember, you're right. It was actually in December 2018 where Chisora took on Dillian Whyte for the second time, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Chisora Whyte 2.
Yeah.
On the very same night as Carl Frampton against Josh Warrington. And it was kind of crazy because one was a huge title fight and the other was a domestic heavyweight dust-up. Yet still, I was with Ray in Shoreditch, actually.
I remember.
Yeah, you remember? So we was in Shoreditch. Yeah. It was a rammed bar.
Rammed
guys,
venue, yeah.
I want to ask you guys, what fight do you think was showing?
I'm going to go Whyte Chisora. Gotta be.
There you go. You go.
The heavyweights will always grab the attention, and then that fight had probably a world-class build-up. That was probably the best build-up. One of the best build-up to a fight I've seen in a long time. So they sold that really well. I think that was a bit of snidiness on the part of Eddie Hearn there, because he knew he had the golden ticket with that fight, so he could put it anywhere. And Frampton and Warrington was a huge fight for Warren at that time. It was kind of his big comeback, his big announcement of his BT deal. And I think Mr. Hearn tried to do a little bit of a snide one, just try and throw a spanner in the works of his launch. But that added to the sort of drama. But from there, we don't really do that in the UK anymore. And
no one wins when the family feuds, even though the family's like two cousins that don't get along. But
very poetic,
you've got to make it work for things to go forward.
You've got to make it work. At the end of the day, boxing fans are the one that are hurting.
If you're Josh Taylor, you're probably, or like Ramirez, you got to remember these boys are probably on pay-per-view percentage points, so they're probably looking at their promoter like, you absolute. What are you doing to me here? Like we know we can't go against Canelo and that fight.
Yeah.
All the Mexicans are going to be somewhere, watching
Canelo,
watching their boy, and then it just completely takes the sting out of your biggest fight of your career. Like, come on, man, you got to be smart.
Yeah, that's the goal. That's the golden boy. No pun intended.
Oh yeah. Well, talking of golden boy, I know De La Hoya was active around this sort of weekend in May, wasn't he?
He used to own this weekend. I think that's one of the biggest advantages of being Mexican American in America, is that knowing when Cinco de Mayo comes on, if you're a top Mexican or heritage-wise, if you're Mexican, it's a very big weekend for those guys out there. So they like to dominate that weekend. Ironically, Floyd even capitalized on that and realized there's a big market for him. So
that weekend, didn't it?
yeah, I think Canelo took that crown off of Floyd and said, "Cool, let me finally take back Cinco de Mayo and ready to him."
It's rightful owner.
So I guess ultimately there was never any way that Canelo was going to budge from that May the 8th day, was he?
No way. He's
smart,
a cash
bro.
cow.
He's a juggernaut in this thing, man. You can't go against Canelo. It's like trying to go against Andy Joshua in this country. Like,
Clive, I want to bring you in here. Is there an argument though that the Ramirez Josh Taylor fight is a bit better?
I think boxing fans can agree that the Taylor Ramirez fight is more of a 50-50 fight. You've got 4 titles on the line. It's for undisputed. But let's just say that you're going to have a gathering. You've got people coming round. They're going to come round for Saunders Canelo. That fight is the bigger draw. I think it's a tough one. I think more boxing fans would teeter towards Ramirez and Taylor. But Canelo, he's pound for pound number 1. He is a face of boxing. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like if you had you got the European Championships in football this year. Yeah, just say it was like Greece against Bulgaria get to the final of that. Yeah, you're gonna jump out and watch it, even if it's like on the same day as like a much better game of football. But because it's the European Championship of the finals, you got to jump out in it, and that's what Canelo is like to Mexicans, sort of thing. Like, do you know what I mean?
Definitely. Now, Steve, your take on the fight between Canelo and Billy Joe Saunders, because a lot of the Americans are not particularly taken towards Billy Joe's boxing style.
Billy Joe Saunders is a very, very talented boxer. Like, you know, people in the UK know this, and Billy Joe Saunders always fought to his level, to the level that is put in front of him. So if he's dropped down, he'll drop down to the level. When he's in those fights, and we followed his whole career, Eubank Jr., that was a tough fight for him at that time. And a lot of people picked, if you're honest, Clive, was you picking Eubank that night, or were you thinking maybe? Do you remember that fight?
Man, I'll pick Saunders, bro.
Right.
I was leaning towards Eubank.
He didn't fall for the hype.
Yeah, no, for real though. And a lot of people, but Billy Joe Saunders found a way to win that night. He's tough. He's a fighting man. He's a very, very skilled guy. He fought Andy Lee. Andy Lee was the champion. Everyone's thinking Andy Lee is way too big for Billy Joe Saunders. He's awkward. Blah blah. What does Billy Joe Saunders do? He turns the fight. He's losing the fight. Turns the fight around with 2 big knockdowns, and then that's how he wins his first world title. He goes out to America to fight David Lemieux. Everyone's like, all the Americans pick it. All the American journalists, you ain't got a chance. You're going to get knocked out by this big puncher. You've been brought to Canada by a Golden Boy to lose. You don't get brought to Canada as the away fighter by the rival promoter to come out and dominate their boy, like make him look sick. That was like an iconic performance, the sort of the missing the shot by a country mile, looking out into the crowd. Iconic. So Billy Joe Saunders has always stepped up to the plate and always delivered a great performance when he's needed to. And he's a very, very talented boy. But Canelo is firing all cylinders at the minute, and Canelo is in a kind of realm of his own. So he's got a lot to do. And there's just because you lose to Canelo, it doesn't make you a bad fighter. Callum Smith just lost to Canelo. He's a very, very good fighter. But it's just the way the cookie crumbles. He's lucky. It's kind of a bad one. It's like you're kind of annoyed that you've got such a generational talent in your division at that time, because it means that you can't be that guy, unfortunately. But you can also make a load of money and test your skills against one of the best of all time. So good for him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I will pick Canelo, but Billy Joe Saunders is a worthy challenger and a very, very good fighter. It wouldn't surprise me if he did well, but Canelo's a different beast at the minute.
Clive, can I ask you, how do you see that fight going? Because if you look at Canelo's CV there, there's quite a few Brits that he's actually beat.
Yeah, he's wiping out all of Hearn's boys. I think...
Didn't he say that to Hearn at his last fight? He goes to him, bring me another one of your boys or something like that.
Yeah, he did. Yeah,
Who's next? Who's next?
Line them up. I do believe that Saunders has a stronger chance than some of the other guys out there. Callum Smith, he had 4 weeks, didn't he, for camp back in December. Saunders, back of his mind, I think he knew that, there was a strong possibility that he was lined up to fight Canelo come May. So he's had a longer training camp. Thing is with Saunders, he's always a bit on and off. He always finds a way to win. But in terms of consistency, it's not quite there in comparison to Canelo. It's a tough fight to call. I'm obviously rooting for my boy Saunders. We shall see.
Yeah, we should definitely see. But also, guys, let's not get too carried away, because Canelo does have a fight later on in this month. It might not be a glamorizing fight, but he actually has got a fight penciled in for this month.
Isn't Yildirim his chief sparring partner? Isn't that what this is? Just a sparring session?
Oh, Lord. Only in boxing can you book 2 fights consecutively at the same time, and people just like, imagine how your like self-esteem must be being Yildirim, just being like, everyone's talking about Billy Joe Saunders, I'm here.
If I was Yildirim, I'd say F it and book my own fight the same night, 30 seconds.
Oh, man.
You know what? In fairness, for Yildirim, there's no pressure for him going into that fight.
Nice payday. I mean,
wait, Clive,
if you had a nice payday.
Clive, if you had an impending knockout coming up, would you feel a little bit of pressure? Someone said, I'm going to knock you out in 2 weeks' time.
I'm just hoping that I hope that he's getting compensated well for this mandatory.
Yeah, exactly. Bills paid and all sorts.
Yeah.
Well, another fighter linked with Canelo is Caleb Plant. Now, I've spoken to Clive separately about Caleb Plant, and he's not a fan. I want to ask the rest of you guys, what's your thoughts on him?
Yeah, he's a good fighter, but I think he's a little bit padded at the minute. And I feel like in his last fight, he fought Truex. And Truex is definitely a spent force and was maybe never a premier kind of boxer, even in his prime. So I feel like he probably should have done a little bit more with Truex. But, during the pandemic, I'm giving a lot of boxers passes for like lackluster performances. But I feel like that was a big showing because there's not much boxing happening right now. So there was a lot of eyes on him. And he should have gone out there and stepped on the gas a little bit and sort of put out a statement. I don't feel like he did enough in that fight.
Well, he's the 168 IBF champion. So, Ray, is he surely he is actually putting the word at notice now?
He's called Sweet Hands, but it looked a bit sour the last fight. It's unfortunate because I know that we knew what Caleb Truex was. It was like a guy that's a bit past it, but he also has been a previous world champion. So it's good to sell to the crowd of, listen, this is Sweet Hands' big moment. This is a former world champion, and he's going to go in there and sweep him off his feet. And he went in there and was on cruise control. It was a comfortable win, but it also wasn't a showcase either. So I know regardless, Canelo is going to come for him. It's not like going to put Canelo off because he has got the IBF belt, but I think on Caleb's part, it didn't do the best to shine him in the light for people to anticipate his fight. And also, sometimes that purse bid is going to get a bit tricky now because if you put on a good show, you could say, listen, I know I'm not going to be the A side, but we might have to bump up how much I'm getting paid for this. But with a showing like that, if Canelo looks good against Yildirim and Billy Joe Saunders, Canelo might start demanding a bit more money as well. And on Caleb's part, it didn't look too good for him to be asking for big money after that performance, unfortunately. And I'm a fan of his. I am, but it wasn't the best of showing, and we have to be objective about that.
So you're a fan. Clive, you're not a fan. Tell us why.
You know what? I'm not a hater.
Mate, you're hating, mate.
That's how haters normally start. I'm not a hater.
I'm not gonna lie, Clive, but the way you're talking is like
all right. Let's put it this way, yeah. He's our IBF champ, right? He's had 21 fights, 21 wins. But who's he actually fought? Yeah, he's a great fighter. Well, he's a good fighter, but let's not put him on that pedestal as Canelo. For me, he's not ready to take on Canelo. And if that fight was to take place, in terms of purse bids, mate, for me, it's 70-30 Canelo. Plant's last performance, it wasn't good enough.
I think if you like they're trying to build up an American opponent for Canelo because that always works well. But if you analyze his like Canelo's last opponents, you take Callum Smith. He won the World Series of Boxing by stopping George Groves. And and was like a bone of like you have to beat a lot of good people to get through that. If he beats Billy Joe Saunders as he's expected to do, he's going to have beaten a former 2-time 2-weight world champion who holds wins over Eubank Jr., Andy Lee, David Lemieux. Where does Caleb Plant rank in that kind of opposition? And in the name of Callum Smith, Canelo just absolutely like battered him. So and he's not even on that level. So where do you put him?
Where do you put him?
That's some valid points that's been brought up, and I guess there was trouble because I think PBC did try to make a Benavidez fight, but Benavidez was always having weight trouble, and he was the former WBC belt holder in that weight class before he lost it due to not missing weight. So it's a difficult one because I do think certain things are out of Caleb's hands, and so he can only fight who's there in front of him. So it's a situation of you can only fight who's in front of you. But if you also don't look good of those in front of you, then there might be an issue. He did say though that he had a hand issue early in that fight, so that might have been a reason why he did go on cruise control. So let's hope that is the latter more than the former, and then see how things go there. And we've also got some news in that division as well that Charlo might come up and face Benavidez because he also wants part of that Canelo sweepstake. So we have to look out for that in the future as well.
You mentioned some big names there, Ray, Clive, and Steve. Yeah, let's throw out some names, man. Let's get the convo heated up.
On to Ray's point, the Charlos for sure. I think they'll be top contenders for Canelo.
Chris Eubank Jr. is making a comeback. You know, he had his career best win. If he could get some wins under his belt, like, you know, it's no joke. He's a hate him or love him, and I think what you want of his boxing ability, he will always sell because of his dad's name and his persona. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because that's the thing with, you got to think when Canelo's on that stage now, you got to think of people who could sell and they could create a story. The Charlos for sure. Has anyone ran Canelo close that they could like run it back? Has anyone had anything like that against Canelo? Can anyone think of?
Well, early on there was Austin Trout and Lara, but
I was just thinking of those, but they're a bit kind of like previous generation.
Yeah.
But if there was something like that.
What about Golovkin?
Yeah,
Canelo don't want to fight him again.
They've been like two good fights so far. Do you know what I mean? I think it will play out in exactly the same way again, but I wouldn't mind seeing it again. You know, if that makes sense. We've always got Liam Williams from the UK. We'll send him over.
Oh Lord. Respectfully.
I think that would be the 10th British fighter if Williams was to take on Canelo, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I think the exchange rate on the currency is good at the minute, isn't it? So he gets paid in pounds. That's why he likes it.
So yeah, I mean, I guess there's definitely a lot of names in that division who Caleb Plant could take on. So guys, if you're listening, please do drop us a comment on who you think Caleb Plant should take on next if it's not going to be Canelo. Judging by Canelo's schedule, he's got a fight lined up in Feb, got one in May, and if he's lucky, he will squeeze one in September possibly.
Yeah, I think that's when he will look to fight Caleb, but Caleb might not take it.
Good stuff. Now, guys, if you was on the gram, you would have seen David Haye and Derek Chisora sending a few teasers. I guess there could be a fight coming up in the coming few months in the shape of Joseph Parker. So, guys, how do you see that one?
Well, yeah, it's a good fight, man. Like, it's people listen to the show, they know that we're big fans of Derek Chisora. He'll always have his cult following that will always watch his fights, me included. And Joseph Parker is a good fighter. He's a contender. It's a nice enough fight. I think Joseph Parker would win that at this stage. Yeah, it's a good fight. They're both about the same level. Why not?
I think, it's going to be interesting because there's going to be a lot of pressure on Parker. This is a fight that he has to win because seeing how we know that Chisora goes to war, but there's also a stigma of if you can't get past Chisora, then what are you doing here type of thing. And with Joseph Parker, he's been missing for a while, so he's going to need to go in there and put on an impressive performance because right now he's in heavyweight no man's land. And especially during these pandemic times, that is not a place you want to be. You want to be up there with the upper echelon. You want to cash out whilst your name's still relevant and get out this game before you stick around too long and then take a beating.
I know I'm a fan of Derek Chisora, but one fight I would like to see is that Joe Joyce fight. I think like there's the British element, and I think that he's just fought like Usyk, innit? So it'd be a good measuring stick. And I think it would get Joe Joyce a good bit of experience before going against Usyk to give him that little bit of certainty that he could win that fight. But I do think I would feel a bit sorry for Chisora in that thing because Joe Joyce is a bit of an animal at the minute. But I think that would be a good test for him before going against Usyk and build the fight out. Because right now, I think a lot of people think that Usyk would easily win that fight. If he got that win over Chisora, everyone would be like, oh, this Brit could beat this like really big name, blah, blah, blah. It would make that fight really interesting. So I'd like to see Chisora, Joe Joyce. Good fight, man.
That's a very good shout.
Yeah, that would be definitely quite tasty there, Steve. And I guess you've got the whole David Haye element as well, because let's not forget, David Haye was the promoter or manager of Joe Joyce as he started these programs.
Yeah.
Listen. If they make this fight, this podcast deserves a cut of that.
It's going off.
We have just done matchmaking for them in a accidental way, but still purposeful. So David Haye, if you're listening, listen. A nice 10% cut of that pay-per-view revenue, or whether just that revenue in general, that would be much appreciated. Cheers, the weighing crew.
Yeah, David Haye's like, this has been David Haye's strategy for Joe Joyce's career the whole time. He has gone 110% for that guy to the extent of becoming Chisora's manager Getting in the fight. Good man, David Hay. Good man.
And if you know the WBA, they'll throw in an interim belt there for no reason.
Oh yeah.
Nice little segue there.
Yeah, nice little segue there, Ray, man. I don't want to talk about this one because it's an absolute circus act. I remember I was talking to you guys early in the week and was like, what the hell is going on here with the WBA? All this regular title, super title,
God.
champion in recess. Clive, break it down for us, please. Break it down.
Yeah, let me break it down. So the WBA has 2 championships, a regular and a super title holder. So if a fighter has a WBA title, but then wins either the IBF, WBC, or WBO title, they get moved up to WBA super champion. The regular title then becomes vacant for 2 contenders to compete for. So yeah, back to your point, it's a bit all over the place, mate.
Mate, it's an absolute circus act. Absolute circus act. And if you guys would have seen, I think it was last week, the legend that is Don King still promoting boxing fights.
How are people still signing with him? I don't understand. Who's still signing those contracts? Like, who's taking a Don King contract and going, yeah, this is legit, absolutely what we need in my life right now.
This guy's been finessing people longer than we've been alive, and people still don't learn.
Yeah, for real. Like, and also, like, it's just not relevant anymore. So, like, where does your boxing career need to go that you feel the need to sign Don King? Like, Jesus Christ. But yeah, no, that WA thing, man. What I don't get is, like, I guess if you're a casual and you see world champion, you just think, oh, world champion, these guys are good. Like, they're good at boxing and whatever. I'll watch some world champion boxing. And I think it's just us as hardcores. It's just so frustrating because you know that, like, is it Trevor Bryan against Romain Stavern is not a world champion fight. It's not even a British title level fight. It's like,
and Steve, let's not forget, it was actually meant to be Manuel Char in that fight.
Yeah, what happened to him?
Yes.
Where's he gone?
Well, I don't think he even got a visa in time to go to America.
Yeah.
That guy's had the most record of fights against people that have fallen through, I think. I mean, I've never seen someone linked to so many people. And there's that guy, Frezequendo. Do you remember that guy? Always fighting for that WA regular title. Frezequendo was a WBA regular champion done. They loved him every year. Yeah.
Yo, Manuel Char, his last fight was in 2017 against Alexander Ustinov. That's 3 years ago, man.
Did he win the title then? Because he's been the champion. He's a joker.
Because what is Anthony Joshua's the super, isn't it?
Yeah. Just leave it as that. Surely.
Shout out to Manuel Char for that time. Do you remember that time that he walked into a David Hay press conference after a win, and he was like, "You must fight me next." And David Hay was like, "Who are you?"
Security.
He thought he was a fan that got him.
Oh man.
Oh, brutal.
I think these boxing boards are crooks. Is like, how much sanctioning money do you want off of every fight? And that's what I think it just really comes down to, because whether sometimes I understand interim is needed, but then there's other times where I'm just like, the whole situation of having a super champion and a regular is ridiculous, because I think even with Eubank Jr., I believe he is the WBA interim. Now they've promoted a guy called Ryota Murata to super. And I think they want to make that fight to unify the division, but they just need to get rid of the super and the regular, especially with the Manny Pacquiao situation. Got a guy, which is understandable because he hasn't fought since July of 2019 when he beat Keith Thurman. And if he's going to be inactive or he's looking to cash out, then I think he should be made champion in recess. But now we've got Yordenis Ugas, who has become the new super champion, who previously fought in September to get the regular. And now that he's been promoted as a super champion, him and Errol Spence have been talking about a unification match, which goes back to that also alluded Spence versus Crawford situation, because for me, I think Crawford should be chasing that title belt, because if he doesn't, then listen, that percentage is going to go more to Errol Spence.
I understand, man. That's absolutely a joke. Well, guys, that's all we got time for on the weigh-in. Thank you as always for listening. We end this show to pay our respects to the former world heavyweight champion, Leon Spinks, who sadly died at age 67. Spinks, who won Olympic gold, achieved a famous upset win over Muhammad Ali in 1978. Our thoughts and prayers go out to the Spinks family. Rest in peace, champ.